Good evening, Flak Pack. Tonight's video will concern the armorer's kits for repairing and maintaining the Flak 38 autocannons. These aren't hammers and tools, these are the actual spare parts that are used to maintain the gun in working order in the field by the crews. Out of all of the accessories that come with the Flak 38, this one is the most fascinating to me because all these precisely machined little repair parts. Nothing cheap about it. Adequate supply of everything to keep the gun running. But this kit you're about to see is one of the main pieces that was issued with every Flak 38 autocannon. Whether it was in a vehicle, on a trailer, it had one of these with it to help maintain it. There's parts for the fire control system. There's multiple sears in there because they wear out so fast. Like I said, all beautifully machined pieces. But every flak gun came with this spare barrel carrier with 2 spare barrels in it and a complete gun. So we wound up with 3 barrels. And the barrels were marked A, B, and C, and each one of those had a logbook with it, so you could track how many and what types of ammunition were fired from that particular gun barrel. Because there was a threshold where the muzzle became too worn and you would lose your accuracy and range of fire. I'm lucky that I have 2 of them, but I'm going to take the most complete one that I have and show you everything in it and where it goes. When it comes to the time to discuss the fire control portion, I have an actual fire, and by fire control I mean the selector section. It's not in America, it's not the receiver, it's not the part of the gun that makes it a gun. It's the part that makes it fire either full auto or semi-auto. And the semi-auto feature was kept on these for doing long-range accuracy shooting. If it was mounted in a vehicle, you had very limited space for ammo, so you would set it to semi-auto so the gunner wouldn't burn through all your ammo and make you have to fall back and get restocks. This is a part of collecting firearms you never get to see because it's the working part of the firearm. Seeing it at a gun show or seeing it on display at a reenactment or even on a vehicle is cool, but to get into the nitty gritty of maintaining a gun that fires like 800 rounds a minute, which is pretty fast for a submachine gun, let alone a 2-centimeter anti-aircraft gun. Inside the box, we find the upper tray, which holds spare sear for the gun. This actually attaches to the bolt release mechanism, and when the bolt comes back, it allows the gun to fire either semi or full auto, according to how the switch on the left side of the receiver is set. These are spare firing pins. You can see the nice tip turned on them. Little ray at the back works as a hammer. These are the most common springs. These are about less than a centimeter long, that wear out the fastest in the recoil system, so they give you a bunch of those. These are sears for full auto and semi-auto. Springs for the dust door on the ejection port. When you're in travel or not using the gun, you're supposed to push it close and latch. Looks very much like a giant one from an AR-15. Assorted springs for the fire control mechanism. This is the trigger spring. You can see it there rolled out nice and neat with its parts. These pins hold the fire control system together, which I will demonstrate once I'm done showing you the interior of this box. But these backup trigger springs drop right in there. Spare pair for the bolt or extractors and my favorite piece. All of my collector friends see this and they tell me to look over there while they try and sneak it out of the garage. It's a whole giant box of screws, hardware, spacers, and most important, German split pins in all their glory. This piece here, there's a tube that has a spring that runs inside of it and outside of it. That's the recoil and charging system you see down the top of the gun. That's that extra compartment on the top of a Flak 38. You'll see it when I lift this off, there's a T-handle that you pull, and that chain moves the shuttle to the rear. That's this chain right here. So this is actually the charging handle I have in my hand right here. And this chain hooks to that little shuttle inside the bolt, or inside the charging system, and allows you to draw it to the rear, and then the other internal spring pulls this forward and out of the way, just like the charging handle on an MG34-42 must be pushed all the way forward before you fire the gun. These here are the muzzle brake, the flash hider, and you'll see they come in a couple different designs. This is a late war stamped one that has a deep notch in it. That's for the version of the flash hider that has this retaining on it. By the way, that is a Kriegsmarine. The only place I've ever seen this type of slash cut muzzle brake is on a Kriegsmarine Flakvierling that they had, two Flak 38s on one mount to direct the blast out of the gunner's line of vision. And for comparison, this is the earlier version without that ring. And this is a little slightly more fancy version of the one for the retaining ring. And this one, machined out of steel, is the one that goes with the early style without the ring. So in the lower side of the box here, we have spare set of rollers for the bolt. You can see the ones installed on the bolt here. There's a spare set. Sears wear out fairly fast. There's three of them. A set of stack washers for the buffer. I do not have a buffer sticks off the back of the gun about 10 or 12 centimeters. I do not have one. I am actively looking for one. This is part of the system that allows the head of the bolt to rotate, unlock, and recoil into the gun. And this is the bolt. This is a complete functioning bolt. It's never been cut or demilitarized. But here, you can see this piece is duplicated right here. These rollers, duplicated right there. The bolt head, of course, just looks like a giant rotating AR-15 bolt head. That's a good 2 kilos of steel. Recoil spring is interesting in that if you watch 38 fire, it doesn't recoil, 10, 15 centimeters. It barely recoils at all, about 5 centimeters. And all four barrels are firing like that, and you almost can't tell it's firing until you see the smoke or the flash. And that's because most of the recoil is inside, taken up inside the gun in the function of the gun, moving this giant heavy bolt. That way, you don't have to build a large-scale, elaborate recoil buffer on each gun, which there is a recoil buffer on each gun, but it's about 4 or 5 centimeters in diameter and about half a meter long. It doesn't have to take the weight of a full hydraulic recoil system like on a Flak 40 or a Flak 38, Flak 88 or something like that. So these are all the parts that are in the kit, and you can just see the craftsmanship and work that went into each little piece to make the gun as easy to repair and as robust as possible in the field. Okay, now I'll move on to showing you where all these pins go in the fire control system. This is something I just saw one of these pieces up for sale on eBay. I don't think the guy knew what it was. Here's your main sear. This is what the bolt will actually catch on. And then this is one of the pins, and you see there's a diameter turned in each end. And you rotate that by hand till it sits all the way through the receiver. Then you take one of those little pins that was in the armorer's kit, and it drops in flush. See, it's got a little head on it like a nail. And that is what holds the pin in place. This pin here, see again, has a diameter turned in it. Slides right across the receiver or the air control group like that. And then this pin drops in here, engages that diameter turned in the pin. So I can see the pin that's here. This piece is the safety, and this is the sear that sits right in here that I forgot to put in because I don't do this every day. But this goes on the left right there. And that's where all those pieces go. And you can see this is the trigger. I have the actual trigger piece removed from it. This catches, this piece here is the safety lever. And then there's a piece that screws in here that's sticks out about 10 centimeters. And that's the buffer that the bolt hits against. Now, if you look at this one, you can see the serial number is one of the 4 original serial numbers assigned to my gun, my Flakvierling. And you can see the subcontractor's mark on here. And then EPK, the manufacturer of the Flakvierling itself, also made trailers, also made the guns. They were one of only 2 manufacturers that made every part of the system. So the other number was a subcontractor number, and this is the final assembly number. And then, sitting on top of that is the back end of the recoil system, or the charging system. That bicycle chain with the T handle on it would feed right through here, and then the bicycle handle would stand up in this hole that my finger's in. So you would grab it, pull it to the rear, lock it, and then allow the chain to retract back in. I have all those parts, but a couple other parts I'm looking for are the latch mechanism that goes across here. I really need one because this one's obviously missing it. And I have some other little treats I discovered while I was looking for the locking clips for the muzzle brakes. This little tin locks into a little clip. You'll see it inside the spare barrel box. Usually at the right end, you'll see this exact thing, which is about 30 millimeters by 80 millimeters. And in that go these little gems. And what these are for is you would take a little bit of grease, smear it around the frame, stick it to the end of the muzzle end of the barrel, and then you would screw the flash hider into place. And what that would do is it would leave you with just enough light that you could look down the bore and tell if there was any obstruction, but it would also keep rocks or anything from getting inside the bore of the gun in transit. Or if you're going to shut down use for a day or so, just to keep people from fiddling around with it and getting stuff stuck in the barrel possibly. And when you fire it, of course, since this is only cardboard and wax paper, when you fire, of course, it just annihilated in the muzzle flash. But Very handy thing to keep your gun clean. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video. Even just hitting the thumbs up that you like us helps us get a better position in the algorithm and move up the food chain. So any help you can give us along that route, I'd appreciate. Hi, Flak Pack. This weekend we'll be taking a look at the Armorer's tool chests that have all the spare parts. Wow, that's fucking